All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Eric Reviews YouTube channel. And today's video, we're going to be looking at the Rings of Power Season 2 trailer, what my thoughts were, and what we could be looking forward to going into Season 2. Now, I will say a couple things before we get further into it. One, I haven't been on this channel in a while. I do plan to review all of Rings of Power Season 2, even though I don't have the highest of hopes. But I do want to give it a chance and see what they do just as its own story. I don't think at this point it's anything related to Tolkien's material at all. So I'm not going to try and compare it to the Silmarillion or the stories that we get of the actual Second Age. I don't think that even applies anymore. I think this is just their own kind of show. So we'll base it off of that. But we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I am active back on this channel again. I want to cover the season. But let's talk about this trailer. So I think the big thing that comes out of this trailer is if you were somebody that didn't like Season 1, this trailer didn't really do anything for you. Like, it still seems to have some of the things that were kind of issues in the first season, right? Like, the world didn't really look like Tolkien's world. It also didn't really... There's a lot of things that you could criticize in the trailer. Like, they tried to... It seems like they're basically trying to do the Anatar plot, which if you don't want spoilers, I'm about to give some spoilers as to what Anatar is and what that plot is, so be warned for Season 2, because I think they're going to loosely follow this plot line. But Anatar is basically the giver of gifts, and it's Sauron's like personality where he goes undercover and, you know, all that stuff. And it seems like they're kind of doing that, but the problem is you take the same actor, the same look of Sauron in Season 1, but then you just slap on an elven wig, more or less, and that's supposed to be like, oh yeah, Sauron doesn't look the same, so people won't recognize him. It's like, okay, so I don't know how far they're going with that plot, but if they are going with the idea that people just can't recognize Sauron because he has a wig on, it's kind of weird because he has the exact same voice and his face is the same. See how that goes. Some of the things I will take away from this trailer, I did think the trailer did a good job of building up, like, what is this season going to be about? Whereas the first season wasn't necessarily about war. The first season was kind of building up to the true threat of Sauron, and now the second season is going to be about kind of paying that off, as we're kind of going to be seeing some war. As the main like places that we saw in the trailer was really Eregion is going to be a huge focus of the second season. For people that have read the book, that know where that's going to go, that's going to be a huge point of contention for this season in terms of executing a war going on there that's shown in the trailer, as well as the other rings of power that have been created in the last season and kind of distributing those rings as well. So there's a lot of that's going to be going on in this season, but something that I also found is it seems like we're also going to have Durin's Bane playing a significant role, it seems like, in this season. Durin's Bane is shown, and it seems that there is some sort of attack going on within Moria, it would appear. So we may actually get like the fall of Moria, it seems like, much earlier than we ended up getting it like in the book or the Tolkien lore, more or less. So there's that also. It'll be interesting to see like how much the dwarves are interconnected to the overall story, as they have a pretty solid relationship with the elves at this time around the Silmarillion. Like, they actually have a pretty good like connection with Eregion and some of that, and that was kind of showed in Season 1. But that should be somewhat of a focus as well in the season. We'll see how Rings of Power and Amazon look to kind of develop that part of it. We also have kind of an elfin plot. They didn't really show much of what Galadriel's true plot was going to be. I guess just going against Sauron. But she wasn't much of a focus in this trailer. And maybe that's because of the backlash that was received on that character in Season 1. One of the worst characters I've probably ever seen in terms of how they decided to build a character and the actual performance of said character. So maybe they've toned back on that. Something else that I think is interesting is Season 1 had a decent amount of focus on the Harfoots, and I think we saw one shot maybe, or maybe there's a couple of them if they're very quick, I guess, throughout the trailer, but I only noticed one shot of the Harfoot, so maybe they're also not going to be a huge focus of this season. Maybe that's the case as well. We still don't know if this stranger is Gandalf, even though it's pretty much confirmed. Like, if this character's not Gandalf, then I think you break the continuity, given that this dude's just spouting off Gandalf lines in Season 1. So we'll see how that develops, if we get any more answers into Season 2 on that. We saw Elrond and Gil-galad as they're kind of preparing for this Sauron threat. They don't have the forces to deal with Sauron alone. Again, you have to remember, the elves are still kind of in the prime of their power during this time. right? Whereas when we get the Third Age with the normal Lord of the Rings story, the elves have kind of faded out of prominence, right? They're all kind of leaving Middle Earth. And so you do got to look at the elves, and if they can't take on Sauron by themselves, that should really show you the threat that's going on here. They still have this character of Adar being some sort of focus, so I'll be curious to see what they're using that character for. Is this going to be a character that Sauron manipulates to, do some sort of war type stuff? Will it be that Adar doesn't really know where Sauron is? Because it seemed like there was some sort of conflict between the two of those characters in season 1, and I don't really know where they're going with that plot. It seems really weird to me. But I will say, like we saw with season 1, I thought season 2 in the trailer anyway looked pretty visually stunning. I think the music for the trailer was actually good. Like, I actually think the trailer was really well put together in terms of just a quality of building up hype for this show. I think the problem with this show is that most people remember season 1. I also think there is a moment that has a Isildur in the trailer, so that does confirm Isildur's alive, which shouldn't really be in doubt given where the character goes, but how he escapes his situation, that'll be something that season 1 or season 2's got to actually figure out. I'll be very interested to see where that goes. We didn't see much of the Numenor plot in general in this trailer, so I wonder if there's not much of a focus on them as much in this season, which would be kind of interesting. Another interesting choice in my opinion. Maybe just focus it on the elf plot, and then we get back to the Numenor plot. I think we saw a couple shots throughout the trailer of some stuff going on in Numenor, maybe some of that power dynamics going on where Pharazôn was introduced in season 1. Maybe we'll see more of a focus on his character in season 2 and how he does his kind of political maneuvering within season 2. He's also somebody that is kind of for my more Game of Thrones viewers would be someone comparable to that, where he's kind of playing that game of trying to become king and all that. So yeah, I think there's some interesting things to look at from Rings of Power season 2. It'd be interesting to see if they can somehow pull this show out of the depths, because season 1, in my opinion, is still one of the worst shows I've ever watched to this day. That's not even coming from a lore accuracy, they didn't really take the source material at all. It came more from the functionality of the show did not work. So I'll see what season 2 can do. I don't have really any expectations positively about this show. I have a very low bar in terms of where I think the shows can go, but yeah, I think the main takeaway from the trailer, if you had some sort of enjoyment of season 1 or you were looking forward to the next season, you'll probably like this trailer. If you were somebody that was not a big fan of season 1, this trailer is not going to bring you back into wanting to watch season 2, I don't think. For me, it didn't anyway. I didn't like season 1, even though I do think the trailer was really well put together. There's a lot of problems with season 1. But I did say at the end of when I was covering season 1, I did it on my main channel, if you do ever want to go rewatch those, that I wasn't going to cover season 2. I decided to do it just in terms of, okay, it's something that I can cover that'll be interesting, even if it's bad, right? It'll be maybe interesting content for you guys. But yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are going into season 2 of Rings of Power that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And also, if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and liking. I'll be covering each episode, probably maybe do a live stream, maybe do just my summarized review as well for Rings of Power. But I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.